It was 2:40 a.m. in a chilly, dimly lit data center tucked away in downtown Chicago. The air hummed with the low buzz of servers, and only the bitter taste of cold coffee kept Evelyn Turner awake. At 37, Evelyn was a cybersecurity specialist known for her sharp instincts and relentless dedication. Tonight felt different, quiet, but charged with an unsettling tension she couldn't shake. 12 monitors flickered softly in front of her, displaying everything from firewall activity to real-time financial data streams. The hum of technology was her constant companion. But something caught her eye, a subtle, repeated pattern in the payment verification logs. It was not random noise, it was precise, calculated, like a soft knock on a locked door, testing if it might open. Her heart quickened. The signals were slipping past their defenses unnoticed, perfectly timed to evade detection. Evelyn knew this was no ordinary threat. Someone inside their fortress was quietly stirring up shadows long thought buried. She glanced at the network map, tracing the signals to a forgotten server, one she personally signed off months ago. Officially decommissioned but mysteriously alive. In that frozen moment, Evelyn realized she was not just fighting a cyber attack. She was uncovering a conspiracy that cut deeper than she imagined. The clock flicked to 3 a.m., but Evelyn's focus only sharpened. She isolated the suspicious traffic, redirecting it into a secure sandbox, a digital cage where she could analyze without risking the network. But the source was baffling. The signals came from ARC-03X, an internal server officially retired during their last infrastructure overhaul. Evelyn had signed the decommissioning paperwork herself. Yet here it was, alive and routing data through a back door that shouldn't even exist. Her pulse raced. This wasn't a simple glitch or an external hack. Someone inside the company had reactivated the dormant system. Someone with intimate knowledge of the network's deepest layers and, more alarmingly, administrative privileges to override shutdown protocols. Evelyn faced a harrowing dilemma. She could trigger an emergency lockdown, slam the alert button, and bring the entire company to a halt. But what if she was wrong? Millions of dollars of live financial transactions hung in the balance. A false alarm would not only ruin her career but also shake investor confidence. So, she stayed silent, opting instead for surgical precision. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, isolating vulnerable ports, tagging suspicious data packets, and filtering injected code fragments. She pulled real-time metrics, hunting for any sign of lateral movement, the telltale footprints of a cyber intruder spreading through the network. The deeper she probed, the more chilling the truth became. This was no hack from outside. This was an inside job. A ghost in the machine waking a long-buried threat. Suddenly, a familiar pattern emerged. Evelyn's breath caught. The fragmented data requests, the way the attack evaded default security protocols. It mirrored an exploit she had studied in a now-defunct internal test project from 2 years ago. The codename, Slipstream Alpha Reverend, and the author? Jonah Caldwell. Jonah. The name hit her like a punch. Once a brilliant senior penetration analyst, Jonah had pitched Slipstream Alpha Rev as an automated vulnerability detection system, too aggressive, too unstable, and ultimately rejected by leadership. Weeks after a heated clash with the department head, Jonah vanished. No goodbye, no farewell, just disappeared from the company and public records alike. Now, that very code was weaponized and adapted to their current network architecture, which had evolved significantly since Jonah's departure. Evelyn's hands trembled. Someone with up-to-date knowledge of the company's infrastructure had resurrected Jonah's ghost, his digital blueprint, and was using it as a weapon. Driven by instinct, she accessed internal directory logs, though she didn't expect to find anything. Yet, there it was, Jonah Caldwell, now listed as an external security consultant under the CTO's office. Active since 3 weeks ago. And the CTO? Alex Reynolds. Alex Reynolds, the man who took over just last month. A figure as enigmatic as he was ruthless. Evelyn had heard whispers. He was shaking things up, dismantling legacy systems, outsourcing critical functions to external vendors, and reshaping the company's security posture. But bringing Jonah back? Embedding him within the CTO's office? That was beyond bold. It was reckless. Her stomach churned as the pieces fell into place. The reactivated server wasn't a mistake. The exploit was deliberate, the attack was controlled, and she was the only one in the dark, cleaning up their mess quietly. Off the record, Evelyn leaned back, cold air biting through her thin blouse. Her hands hovered over the keyboard, hesitating. There was no point searching further. The answers were all there, glowing on the screens. Jonah's design, Alex's approval, the silent betrayal. Her automated defenses were compromised. Several detection flags had been muted, not removed, just turned down, like someone lowering the volume on a radio to avoid waking a sleeping house. The AI-driven systems were running, but they weren't watching the real threat. They were distracted by noise and decoys. Without hesitation, Evelyn activated the manual override protocol. One line of code, and control shifted from algorithms to her alone. The hum of the machine dimmed as automated alerts faded. Now, every gate, every sensor, every security trigger was hers to command. If anything went wrong, it would be on her shoulders. Sweat beaded on her palms. The terminal confirmed. Manual mode engage. She ran a deep scan immediately. Something new surfaced. A subtle script embedded 6 weeks ago deep in Node C9's behavior logs. The code was elegant, recursive, unmistakably Jonah's style, but the real shock was in the metadata. Approved by A. Reynolds. Alex hadn't just brought Jonah back. He had authorized the tampering of their core reporting stack, explaining why their security systems missed the breach entirely. The sensors weren't malfunctioning. They had been told where not to look. Evelyn scanned the dark, empty data center. The weight of solitude pressed down on her. There was no room for fear, only precision. She began restructuring firewall hierarchies, rerouting logs, and marking suspicious outbound signals for quiet surveillance. If Alex and Jonah wanted stealth, she'd show them true invisibility. As she worked, memories flashed. A decade earlier, her first week on night rotation, a junior analyst jittery on energy drinks, spotting odd spikes from a deprecated backup system, only to be told to trust the AI by her manager. 2 hours later, the system crashed. Evelyn was the only one who stayed to restore it. Alone, cold, terrified. That night, she learned a hard truth. Systems don't save themselves. People do, but some people, like Alex, relied on silence and shadows to hide the inconvenient. Her back ached, but she pushed on. By sunrise, Evelyn had neutralized the rogue code, reinforced critical nodes, and created a shadow alert system visible only to her. She didn't know who else was involved or how deep the conspiracy ran. But one thing was clear, the system wasn't broken. It was blind, by design. At 3:03 a.m., the breach was contained. The rogue server was offline. Compromised sessions terminated, certificates revoked, endpoints verified. Not a single external gateway detected the intrusion. On paper, a perfect operation. But Evelyn felt hollow, not victorious. 12 monitors blinked quietly, casting eerie green light across the room. The silence was sterile, heavy, suffocating. At 3:07 a.m., she opened a fresh incident report, detailing every finding. The discovery time, intrusion pattern, IP trace, escalation path, and countermeasures. She attached side-by-side code comparisons of the malicious sensor script and the clean baseline. She flagged Jonah's signature and linked it directly to Alex's approval. It was the most thorough technical report she'd submitted in years. At 3:21, she sent it to Alex Reynolds, Leo Simmons, the head of infrastructure, internal audit, and CEO Carla Mitchell. Then she waited. But by 3:35, there was no reply, no acknowledgement, no ping, no response. Habitually, she checked the sent message. It had left her outbox. Then she saw it. Beside Carla Mitchell's name, the delivery status read, redirected. The report had been rerouted automatically to the Daily Security Digest, reviewed only hours later by legal. Evelyn's heart sank. Her report, the biggest security incident in years, had been buried. Carla, the CEO, had been deliberately kept in the dark. Someone had made that call. She minimized the window. No one else had responded. No calls, just the quiet hum of the machines and the growing static inside her mind. At 3:43, Leah from facilities walked in, clipboard in hand. "You still here?" Leah asked softly. "Just finished," Evelyn replied, forcing calm. Leah glanced at the screens. Bandwidth spikes around 2:40. Power drain in Sector C. Something happened. Nothing that made the news, Evelyn said. Leah smiled faintly. "You always fix things before anyone even notices they're broken." Evelyn nodded. "Bad habit." Leah hesitated. "Evelyn, does anyone ever thank you for what you do?" Evelyn gave a half smile. "Only the machines." Leah chuckled and left. Her footsteps faded. Evelyn powered down her station at 3:51, slung her bag over her shoulder, and walked toward the elevator. The building felt colder than ever, like something had been erased. Not the breach, something else, maybe her. The elevator doors slid shut. A single red light blinked in the security camera. Not watching, recording. By 6:15 a.m., the city had woken. But Evelyn Turner was still inside Arcadia Systems' glass tower, tracing shadows that had already begun to close in on her. She stepped into the lobby dressed in last night's clothes, hair hastily tied back, eyes shadowed from hours of screen glow. The morning light spilled through the vast windows, but inside, something felt wrong. The receptionist, Jenna, barely glanced up, no nod, no greeting, just distracted tapping on her keyboard. Evelyn tried not to take it personally. The elevator doors opened, and two software engineers, Dylan and Mira, stepped in behind her. Usually, they'd joke or ask questions about overnight code pushes. Today, they were silent, stiff. Mira's quick glance toward Evelyn held a flicker of unease before she looked away. Dylan tapped his badge and faced forward, avoiding eye contact. The building felt colder, not physically, but emotionally. By 6:22 a.m., Evelyn reached the fourth floor, home to security and infrastructure. Fluorescent lights hummed bright white, casting long shadows across cubicles and conference rooms. She passed the espresso bar. Empty, no familiar faces. She spotted Leah Jameson, head of people operations and a trusted friend for 6 years, just exiting the HR suite. Leah's eyes met Evelyn's for a split second, then dropped. No smile, no nod, just avoidance. Evelyn froze. This was not busyness. This was deliberate distance. Whispers drifted through the hallway like static. Evelyn's heart tightened. She could feel eyes on her, but no one spoke directly. She opened Slack, searching for Core Security channel, her digital lifeline. Nothing. The channel was gone. Permissions revoked. She dug deeper, accessing logs and filtering group permissions. It was undeniable. Evelyn Turner had been removed from Core Security 2 days ago at 2:26 p.m. No notification. No request, no warning, just erased. Her fingers trembled. The betrayal was palpable. Marcus, a newer analyst with a reputation for honesty, appeared beside her desk. I saw the logs, he said cautiously. That was some quick work last night. Thanks. Evelyn nodded, voice tight. They told us to keep quiet. Marcus added, glancing over his shoulder. Alex's office said it was a false alarm, folded into weekly diagnostics. Evelyn clenched her jaw. Thanks for telling me. He nodded and quickly walked away. Sitting down, Evelyn stared at her screen, mind racing. The report she'd sent was buried, her access stripped, the people she trusted now turned away. She opened the old backup dashboard, the forgotten system no one used after the forced migration. Her access was still active there, a small glimmer of control. Her company badge buzzed sharply. Meeting with Alex Reynolds, 9 a.m., 19th floor. Executive level. No subject, no assistant, just her and the meeting. She stood before the elevator, frozen a heartbeat too long, then stepped inside. The ride was slow, unnaturally smooth. Floors passed with dull mechanical hums. But the 19th was different, quiet, almost oppressive. Alex's assistant, Valeria, barely looked up. He's ready for you. Evelyn knocked. No answer. Pushed the door open. Alex Reynolds stood by the window, back turned, arms folded. The Chicago skyline spread out below like a kingdom he ruled with cold calculation. Evelyn, he said without turning, have a seat. She stayed standing. He walked to his desk, tapping a tan envelope. We're restructuring. Alex began smoothly. Security is moving external, third-party vendors. Leaner, more agile. You'll find your exit package here. Generous transition. You're firing me? Evelyn's voice cracked. Let's call it a realignment. He replied, unreadable. She stepped closer, heat burning behind her eyes. After I stopped a major breach? It didn't qualify as reportable. He said flatly, you buried my report, removed me from the team. You brought Jonah back. Alex's face flickered for a moment. Jonah was removed for cause, unstable, reckless. Now you bring him back? He slid a folder across the desk. Jonah Tech is our new vendor. Agile penetration testing. Signed yesterday. Evelyn felt bile rise. You signed this while I was still fighting the breach he designed. Alex remained calm. Systems evolve. We need innovation, not internal friction. She picked up the envelope. Is that why no one talks to me? Why Leah won't look at me? Why the breach was hidden? He smiled thinly. I can't speak for others. We appreciate your years of service. No, you don't. You used me to fix your mess. Then pushed me out so no one asks questions. Alex stepped back, voice cold. You're taking this too personally. Evelyn laughed, bitter. You made it personal when you chose silence over truth. She turned to leave, gripping the envelope tight. One last question. She paused. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Or that I'd leave quietly? Alex said nothing. The elevator doors closed behind her. Back at her desk, the chair felt foreign, but her fingers moved, opening the legacy backup system, her secret window into what others had hidden. At 10:02 a.m., she was home. Laptop open, coffee cold, silence heavy, the envelope untouched. Her fingers typed commands restoring logs from the breach window. She found proof. A manual suppression of security alerts. Triggered 21 minutes before the attack. Signed by none other than Alex Reynolds. He hadn't just covered up the breach, he'd orchestrated it. Her world shattered, but she didn't break. She pulled out a hidden hard drive, the last safeguard she'd built years ago. Full copies of the old infrastructure schema and admin credentials. They'd underestimated her. The watchdog system she created years ago, a secret fail-safe that would trigger if her account was ever revoked without protocol, was still active. Now, she waited. Evelyn sat by the window. The orange city haze bleeding in. She typed a quick message to Mara, an old encryption specialist friend who'd helped build the watchdog. Watchdog still on standby. No drama, just facts. She closed her laptop. Outside, the world moved on, but Evelyn Turner was ready. Morning light filtered softly through Evelyn Turner's apartment window, casting long shadows across the scattered papers and humming machines that filled her workspace. The city buzzed faintly beyond the glass, unaware of the silent storm brewing in this small, cluttered room high above downtown Chicago. Evelyn sat hunched over her laptop, eyes bloodshot but sharp, fingers flying across the keyboard as she sifted through layers of encrypted logs and coded whispers. The discovery of Alex Reynolds's deliberate sabotage had shaken her world. But now, instead of anger or despair, a new clarity settled deep inside her, a cold, steely resolve. She was no longer just a guardian trying to fix a broken system. She was a lone sentinel standing watch over the truth. A truth that powerful men wanted buried. As she dug deeper, the scope of the betrayal unfolded like a dark tapestry. Alex wasn't just hiding a breach. He was systematically dismantling the very foundation of Arcadia's internal security, outsourcing critical functions to vendors like Jonah Tech while quietly silencing those who posed a threat, like her. Her own removal from the core security channels was no accident, it was a calculated purge. Names of other seasoned analysts, engineers, even compliance officers were flagged for phased exit or reassignment. These were the loyal few, the ones who had built the company's defenses piece by piece, now written off as obstacles to progress. Evelyn paused, rereading a page from the leaked security restructure proposal, a cold document listing employees like items in inventory, marked for removal based on vague criteria like legacy mindset and resistance to integration. Her name topped the list. The reality stung sharply. The company she had devoted years to was no longer the place she believed in. It was a machine, soulless and ruthless, where loyalty counted for less than bottom-line efficiency. But Evelyn wasn't ready to surrender. The watchdog protocol she'd coded years ago, a hidden guardian buried deep in the infrastructure, was still alive. It listened for unauthorized account terminations, triggering a tiered response to contain and report internal threats. And if the worst happened, it sent a secret alert to Echo Route, a shadow server in rural Estonia maintained by her old friend Mara Lynn. Evelyn glanced at the glowing terminal. Echo Route's heartbeat was steady, its secure connection intact. She felt a flicker of hope. Her thoughts drifted back to Mara, who had once told her over noodles in a bustling Singapore market. If you build a fortress, make sure the keys aren't all inside the gates. Sometimes, you have to watch from the outside. Evelyn smiled faintly. She had built those keys. And now, from the outside, she was ready to use them. But this was no longer a solo fight. Quietly, messages began to arrive, encrypted notes from trusted allies, whispers of discontent from former colleagues. Subtle signs that not everyone had swallowed the company's new narrative. Leo Simmons, head of infrastructure and an old friend, sent a cautious text. Be careful. Not everyone trusts the new order. And from Mara, a simple ping. We're still here. Watching. Evelyn felt a surge of determination. The walls were closing in, but cracks were forming. Meanwhile, the outside world was stirring. News of the breach and subsequent lockdown leaked through shadow channels, sparking murmurs among investors and partners. Mason Grant, CEO of Grantwell Capital, Arcadia's largest institutional client, posted a rare public statement. Only one person I trust in Arcadia is Evelyn Turner. Without her, we're lost. Evelyn knew that trust was fragile but powerful. She closed her laptop, stretching, the weight of exhaustion settling over her. But rest was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her phone buzzed. A message from Leah Jameson, her longtime confidant and head of people operations. I'm sorry. I should have spoken up sooner. You were right all along. The apology was bittersweet. Leah had been caught in the crossfire, forced into silence by fear and corporate pressure. Evelyn's heart softened, but the cold reality remained. The company's culture had shifted, and she was now an outsider. She took a deep breath and opened her personal notebook, flipping to the last page. With a steady hand, she wrote, I didn't destroy them, I just stopped protecting them. The words felt like a mantra, a declaration. She wasn't here to fight alone or to salvage what was lost. She was here to expose the truth, to hold the system accountable. Outside, the city pulsed with life. Cafes buzzed, trains roared past, and the world marched forward, unaware of the silent revolution brewing within the walls of Arcadia. Evelyn packed her bag, slipping the silver USB drive, the encrypted truth, into her coat pocket. It contained everything: logs, timestamps, behavioral anomalies, an unaltered audit trail. She didn't plan to make noise. The code would speak for itself. As she stepped out the door, the morning sun warmed her face. But inside, a storm was gathering. She was ready. Evelyn Turner's world had been shaken to its core. But as the morning light streamed through her apartment window, she felt something new stirring inside, a quiet spark of opportunity. The silver USB tucked safely in her coat was more than just data. It was a weapon forged from truth and persistence. It held the undeniable proof of betrayal, corruption, and the silencing of those who dared to stand against the tide. But it also carried a promise that the story she uncovered could change everything. The phone vibrated softly on the table. A message from Mason Grant, CEO of Grantwell Capital, the firm with the largest stake in Arcadia's future. Let's meet, 2 p.m. the Grantwell offices. We need to talk. Evelyn hesitated only for a moment before replying. I'll be there. The meeting felt like stepping onto a new battlefield. Grantwell's sleek downtown offices were a far cry from the cold, humming data center she had left behind. Yet, inside the glass walls and marble floors, the tension was palpable. Mason greeted her with a firm handshake and a grave expression. Evelyn, what you uncovered, what you stopped, it saved us from a disaster. We can't let this go unnoticed. She nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over her again. I have the proof, the audit trails, the code changes, the internal approvals. It's all here. Grantwell's team was already assembled: legal advisors, risk managers, and cybersecurity experts. They leaned in as Evelyn laid out the timeline: the reactivation of the ARC-03X server, the Slipstream Alpha exploit, Jonah Caldwell's return, and Alex Reynolds's role in suppressing alerts and burying reports. It's a systematic betrayal, she explained, a purge disguised as modernization. They're erasing anyone who questions the narrative. One of the risk managers asked, What do you want, Evelyn? Her eyes scanned the room. I want transparency. I want Arcadia's board and its clients to know the truth. And I want to ensure that no one else can silence their watchdogs. Mason nodded slowly. You're asking for a revolution. Not a revolution, Evelyn said firmly. A reckoning. Change rooted in truth, not silence. The next days were a whirlwind. With Grantwell's backing, Evelyn's evidence became a force impossible to ignore. Investigations launched, audit trails scrutinized, and internal emails revealed the depth of deception. But with exposure came backlash. Arcadia's executive team pushed back hard, claiming the reports were exaggerated. The whistleblower biased. Alex Reynolds denied all allegations, casting Evelyn as a disgruntled former employee. Yet, the tide was turning. Media outlets picked up the story. Industry analysts debated the fallout. Clients demanded answers. In the midst of the storm, Evelyn found allies where she least expected. Leah Jameson, once silent, became a vocal supporter, sharing insider knowledge of the culture shifts and the pressures employees faced. Mara Lynn, from afar, provided technical support, monitoring the Echo route server and ensuring that encrypted backups of Arcadia's infrastructure were secure and immutable. Even Jonah Caldwell's name resurfaced not as a villain, but as a tragic figure, a brilliant mind weaponized by corporate greed. Amidst the chaos, Evelyn was approached by a startup cybersecurity firm, Vigilant Systems, offering a consulting role focused on building transparent, human-centered security protocols. They believed in empowering individuals, not silencing them. It was an invitation to build something new from the ashes of the old. Evelyn stood at a crossroads. She could continue to fight within the shadows of Arcadia's legacy, or she could step into the light, shaping the future of cybersecurity with integrity and openness. The decision was clear. She accepted. Her first project was designing a community-driven intrusion detection system, one that combined AI precision with human intuition, where alerts were transparent, and every stakeholder had a voice. In her new role, Evelyn found purpose beyond containment. She became a teacher, a mentor, a beacon for those who felt unseen. She spoke at conferences, sharing her story and the lessons of trust, resilience, and courage. Her message resonated deeply. Security was not just about technology but about people, their values, their voices, their vigilance. Meanwhile, at Arcadia, changes rippled slowly but surely. The board replaced Alex Reynolds, instituting reforms demanded by shareholders and clients alike. Internal audits were reopened, and previously hidden channels were restored. But the scars remained. Evelyn knew that true change was a long road. The systems and the people that sought to silence truth would not vanish overnight. Yet, with each step forward, the shadows grew thinner. One evening, sitting at her new desk with the city lights twinkling beyond the window, Evelyn pulled out the silver USB once more. She smiled softly. It was no longer just a reminder of betrayal, it was a symbol of resilience. She typed a quick message to Mara. The future starts now. Outside, the night hummed with possibility, and Evelyn Turner was ready to lead. Months had passed since Evelyn Turner left the cold corridors of Arcadia Systems behind. The bustling streets of Chicago had witnessed her silent departure. But now, from a modest office at Vigilant Systems, a scrappy startup with big ambitions, Evelyn was crafting a new legacy. Gone was the quiet analyst who once sat alone, battling invisible enemies in the dead of night. In her place stood a leader forged by betrayal, tempered by resilience, and driven by a fierce conviction that security was more than just lines of code, it was about people. Her mornings began not with the hum of forgotten servers, but with energized meetings filled with passionate developers, curious interns, and clients eager for change. Evelyn had embraced the role of mentor, teaching teams to marry cutting-edge technology with human intuition. One afternoon, she sat with Maya, a young engineer struggling to find her voice in a male-dominated industry. Evelyn listened patiently as Maya confessed her fears about speaking up when she noticed vulnerabilities in code reviews. Your voice matters, Evelyn told her gently. Sometimes the most important firewall isn't the software, it's the courage to be heard. The days were a whirlwind of presentations, code sprints, and strategy sessions. Evelyn's work on the community-driven intrusion detection system blossomed, harnessing AI's power while ensuring transparent, human-led oversight. But growth was not linear. Evelyn battled moments of doubt, haunted by memories of betrayal, the isolation she endured, and the knowledge that many in the industry still clung to old ways of silence and control. One late night, after hours of debugging a critical vulnerability, she caught her reflection in the monitor's glass. The tired eyes staring back were familiar, but something new shone within them, a quiet confidence. She remembered the night she first discovered the ARC-03X breach. The cold data center, the flickering monitors, the solitary fight to protect a system that didn't want saving. Now, that fight had transformed. Evelyn was no longer alone. Her team had grown from a handful of idealists to a network of allies spread across the country, each sharing knowledge, challenges, and victories. She found strength in collaboration, realizing that true security came from trust, transparency, and shared responsibility. Outside work, Evelyn's personal life began to bloom. She reconnected with old friends, nurtured new relationships, and found moments of peace in the city's parks and coffee shops. Her scars from Arcadia remained, but they no longer defined her. She had learned to channel anger into action, betrayal into wisdom. At a major cybersecurity conference, Evelyn took the stage to deliver a keynote speech. The room was packed, the air electric with anticipation. She spoke candidly about the dangers of internal threats, the importance of human vigilance alongside technology, and the courage it takes to stand up when systems fail. Her words resonated deeply, inspiring a new generation of professionals to embrace transparency and integrity. After the speech, a young woman approached her with tears in her eyes. "Your story saved my career," she said. "You showed me it's okay to speak out." Evelyn smiled, humbled. It was moments like these that fueled her growth. But challenges remained. Arcadia's shadow loomed large. Despite reforms, remnants of old power structures resisted change. Evelyn knew the fight for ethical security was ongoing. One evening, a confidential message arrived. A whistleblower inside Arcadia had uncovered a fresh attempt to bypass new safeguards. Evelyn's heart raced. The past was never far behind. Without hesitation, she coordinated a response, deploying her team to assist quietly, ensuring transparency and protection. This cycle of vigilance, response, and education became Evelyn's new rhythm. She wasn't just defending systems anymore, she was shaping an industry culture grounded in accountability and trust. Her transformation was not just professional, but deeply personal. Where once fear and isolation reigned, now stood resilience and connection. Evelyn Turner had become more than a cybersecurity expert, she was a beacon of change. And as the city lights flickered below her office window, she knew her journey was only beginning. The conference room was filled with energy, eyes fixed on Evelyn Turner as she took the stage one last time. This moment, more than a speech, it was a declaration, a testament to the journey that had shaped her from a solitary guardian of silent servers to a beacon of transformation in the cybersecurity world. Her voice rang clear and steady. We often think of security as walls, firewalls, and encryption, cold, unfeeling barriers, but the truth is, security is a living, breathing ecosystem. It's about people, about trust, about courage. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle in the room. For years, I fought in silence. I was a ghost in a machine built to hide the inconvenient truths. But I learned that silence is not weakness, it's a force waiting to awaken. When you find your voice, when you embrace your truth, you become unstoppable. A ripple of applause flowed through the crowd. Evelyn's eyes scanned the sea of faces, young engineers, seasoned professionals, allies she had never met but felt connected to by a shared mission. Her journey hadn't been easy. Betrayal, isolation, and the cold grip of corporate politics had tested her. But those trials forged a resilience that was impossible to break. She spoke next of the new model she and her team had developed: transparent, collaborative, human-centered security protocols designed not to hide breaches but to expose them quickly, fairly, and with accountability. This is the future, she declared, not just protecting data, but empowering people, building systems where the watchdog isn't hidden in shadows, but standing proudly at the gate. After the conference, Evelyn stepped into a quiet cafe across the street. The city hummed softly around her, a rhythm of endless possibilities. She took a deep breath, sipping her black coffee, and pulled the silver USB drive from her bag. It held the story of Arcadia's betrayal and redemption, a digital legacy she entrusted to those who would continue the fight. Her phone buzzed gently, a message from Mara Lynn. "Well done. The code speaks." Evelyn smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace. She thought back to the cold nights spent alone in the data center, the weight of silent battles, and the moments she wondered if her fight mattered. Now she knew it did. Her story inspired others to stand firm, to question quietly, to persist when systems failed. Weeks later, Evelyn received an unexpected call from Carla Mitchell, former CEO of Arcadia. "Evelyn," Carla's voice was soft but sincere. "Thank you for your courage. You saved more than our systems, you saved our integrity." It was an olive branch, an acknowledgement long overdue. Evelyn accepted, not out of forgiveness, but because she understood the power of reconciliation. Her journey was bigger than any one person. It was about restoring faith in an industry too often mired in secrecy. In the months that followed, Evelyn became a sought-after advisor, helping companies worldwide rethink security, from rigid walls to open gates. Her work saved lives, protected livelihoods, and sparked a movement. One evening, watching the sunset paint the Chicago skyline in hues of gold and crimson, Evelyn reflected on how far she'd come. She had started as a lone warrior in a cold room, fighting shadows. Now she was a leader, a mentor, a voice for the voiceless. And she knew this was only the beginning. Because true change isn't a destination, it's a journey. And Evelyn Turner was ready to walk it, every step of the way. The story of Evelyn Turner teaches us that strength is not always loud or visible. Sometimes, the most powerful form of courage is silent resilience, standing firm in the face of betrayal, isolation, and overwhelming odds. Evelyn's journey reminds us that truth has a way of surfacing, even when those in power try to bury it. But more importantly, it shows that protecting what's right often requires us to prepare quietly, to build hidden safeguards, and to trust in our own integrity. In cybersecurity and in life, systems don't save themselves. It's the people behind them, their values, vigilance, and bravery that make the difference. When you feel overlooked or silenced, remember, your silence doesn't make you weak. It can be a strategic force, a calm before the storm of change. The key is to be ready to act when the time comes and to never stop believing in the power of your own truth. Whether in the workplace or daily life, Evelyn's story encourages us to be vigilant and proactive. Always question what feels off and don't dismiss your instincts, even when others tell you to trust the system. Build your own watchdog, a network of trusted allies, knowledge, and personal integrity that helps you spot problems early and take action wisely. In teams and organizations, foster transparency and open communication. Encourage speaking up without fear of retaliation. And if you face silence or exclusion, remember Evelyn's example. Keep your evidence, stay prepared, and find allies who value truth. Ultimately, change doesn't come from loud confrontation alone but from consistent, quiet courage and the readiness to protect what matters, even when no one is watching. Thank you for choosing to listen to this story among thousands of stories out there. Like and subscribe to continue listening to the latest stories.